From Tobacco Republic in Loomis, California, the Loomis Cigar Cartel presents Beyond the Humidor, a cigar podcast for the rest of us. I kind of muffed that a little bit. But
a cigar
that's okay.
I got to for the rest of us.
Shut up. I didn't ask you. Scott Robinson with you for another episode of Beyond the Humidor. I've got some very special treats for you today. We got the voice of Mater from Cars, and we've got the Jean-Luc Picard if you ordered them from Wish.
Wow. If you ordered them from Wish.
Dude, that's real fucked up.
And the E rating comes right now.
It's very, very special. Very, very special.
Where's your eye visor, Jordy?
What makes you think I'm Jordy?
Who else you gonna be, Riker?
Jordy put on a few pounds.
And got a hell of a lot taller.
He's like a Jordy and a half.
No, I'm Cisco, baby.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah. Geez.
Yeah, you can pull that off.
Anyway, how you guys doing, Greg?
Really good, really good. This is a great day. Two of my favorite people, even though they don't know that, now they do, in the cigar world are joining us today. So it's a really, really great day.
That probably creeps him out a little bit, don't you think?
I'm your number one fan.
No, the number one fan lives in Idaho. And he's Brian and Sebastian's number one fan, too.
All right.
How you doing, Larry?
I am good, man. I am really looking forward to this. This is having read Greg's
dissertation.
Yeah, well prepared notes, by the way.
Thank you.
I mean, that was superb, for a intellectual midget as myself. Was able to comprehend those extremely well, and I am really looking forward to this cigar. I haven't even lit it yet. I'm waiting, and
oh yeah, so am I. Like a fat kid at the candy store. I just got here. I'm just eyeing it.
But no, I really look forward to talking to these guys and talking and letting them talk about their product, and because I think this is gonna be great.
Yep,
we are. We're gonna. Well, two of us are gonna be drinking a little bamboo Spice Rum with this cigar. I don't know if you guys are familiar out there in radio land, listener land with bamboo, or if you're even a rum fan. I came across this about 3 months ago, and it's a superb spiced rum.
I will agree with that statement.
So yeah, if not an everyday, but if you got something you want to kind of just kick back and relax, this is good for mixed drinks, although I prefer it, just a little bit over the rocks. So give it a try.
I tasted it. It is a wonderful rum. I like it.
And it's available at Bevmo. So, there's Bevmos everywhere.
Yep.
Okay. Kind of like Walmart. You can't swing a cat without hitting one. So
yep. Be sure to pick up your Patrick Stewart live action doll. Ooh, that's creepy, Greg.
And, fortunately, they didn't get to see that.
Well, you know what? We also gave a mic to our newly promoted Camera Gorilla. How's it going over there?
Camera Gorilla is doing fine.
Good.
Is he pleased?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm just pushing buttons. Things are lighting up. I think we're recording. I have a cigar, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
After all those good things I said about you during the Godfather podcast, don't do this to me. Don't make a jerk out of me.
Too late.
Well, hey, let's just hop right into it with one of our very, very special guests. He is with us live from the Fabrica Central Americana Tobacco Factory in Dunley, Honduras. Let me have the pleasure of introducing the part owner and sales director of Cavalier Genève.
Genevieve.
Brian, it's Genève.
Oh, is it?
Brian Motola. Thank you very much.
Fired.
Hey there, Brian. How you doing?
Good, fellas. How are you this morning?
Just to settle a quick argument between my co-host and I, is it Cavalier Genève or Cavalier Geneva?
Well, depends on what part of the world you're in.
See?
Greg is forever stuck in England. Oh, that was a good comeback. See, your mama.
This poor guest, first thing on the show, settle this debate. Very, very diplomatic answer, sir.
Well, he knows one of our friends, so he knows we're all crazy, but already.
The first thing he's thinking is, God, starting out, they butcher the name of my company, jackass.
Oh yeah, no, you're all good. I mean, it like I said, it really depends. I mean, Geneva. The company started in Switzerland, so in Geneva. But if you're, like Sebastian, who is going to join us in a little bit, I hope he's down dealing with an electric outage. He speaks 5 languages, so it's different in all 5 languages.
Nice.
So, yeah, that debate can go on forever.
Okay. All right. So let's just dive into it right now. What got you, and this, I know it's an 8th grade journalism question, but what got you into cigars? How long have you been we all started out as consumers, but what really got your passion going?
Well, yeah, that's a great question, and it's one that's asked a lot. And for me, it's a very personal thing, and I don't mind sharing it, because 30 years ago I stopped drinking, I got sober, I got clean, and the reality is one, if you took cigars out of the picture for me for the 30-year period now, that 30-year journey that I've been on, I don't think I would have made it. So it's really cool for me to be able to give back to an industry that essentially, has saved my life, or changed my life, because I'm still a social person. I like to hang out in lounges. I love the community aspect. When I was a raging drug addict, that was also a community, just the wrong one to be in. So it's really cool for me to give back to an industry and to be able to do it later on in life, right? Like, I wasn't born into tobacco, and neither was Sebastian. I'm doing it later in life. Sebastian's 30 years old, and he represents the next generation of cigar blenders for me. So I'm having the time of my life right now.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it is. That's wild. Congratulations, by the way, on your sobriety.
Oh, thank you. And like I said, I share it very openly because there's so many of us out there in cigar lounges. It's amazing when you start to talk about it. People are like, hey man, I got 3 months, or I've got 10 years, or I've got 55 years. There's a lot of us out there in this community, and I take my hat off to each and every one of them.
Yeah, I hear you. I know a lot of cats and, members of my family who went through it. I mean, we're talking everything from alcohol to crack, and, it's real hard getting clean. I mean, everybody has a journey in that. So, I just want to hats off to you for, keeping on the road to sobriety.
Thank you. And cigars help that, right? I mean, people say to me, God, I never see a moment where you don't have a cigar in your hand. And I'm like, yeah, just think about it. Those were shots of Jack Daniels years ago.
Right.
And I do smoke from the minute I wake up till the minute I go to bed.
Well, God
bless
you, sir. Yes.
I love it.
That's,
yeah.
You're my spirit animal.
Wow, and you were talking about me being creepy.
Don't worry, Greg. You're still creepy.
Thank you.
So, Brian, can you give us a rundown on what we're smoking here?
Yeah. So, you all are smoking the USA exclusive. Now, as I mentioned to you, the company started in Geneva, Switzerland. Sebastian is from there. And at 22 years old, he decided that, he wanted to pack everything up and move to Central America. He came down to Dan Lee, and he didn't know anybody. just knew that he wanted to explore this great world that we all enjoy. And he was sitting in the Central Park in Danlí, and much like most Central American towns, the center is a church with a park. And he's sitting in the park smoking a cigar, and a guy walks up to him and says, you know, what are you doing here? He didn't speak any Spanish. Luckily, the guy spoke a little bit of English, and he said, I'm here to, you know, see tobacco and factories, and I just want to learn. And so the guy said, come with me, and gets in a car with the guy, which is a totally ballsy move, right? Like, I mean,
I would think, yeah.
you know, I'm not afraid of much, but I don't know if I would have gotten in the car with somebody that I had just met and taken a blind leap of faith like that. Well, it turns out the guy took him to a factory. He didn't pay any attention to where he was or what the factory was. And the guy said, well, you know, this is my family's factory, and blah, 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 blah. And he looked around and he says, yeah, I want to stay. I want to learn. And it ended up being one of the members of the Plasencia family.
Oh, wow.
Man.
That picked him up in the middle of Danlí by random. And actually, that gentleman is our partner in the factory as well. So it's really cool. It's a cool story. And like I said, I don't know if I would have had the balls to get in the car with the guy. I've been like, sure, you know.
That's a little sketchy. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, either this is going to work out or my life is over.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Roll
am
the
I going
dice.
to at least give me ice cream on the ride? You know, I mean,
Does this rag smell like chloroform?
Yeah.
so at 22, that's what he did, and he ended up spending about 5 years with the family, working in every aspect of the factory, from rolling to packaging to blending to everything. And in fact, well, let's kind of work it in progression. Then one day, Sebatien and I met in Virginia at a multi-vendor event. And, you know, you meet a lot of people in life, but every once in a while, you meet a person that you just go, you know, wow, I want to be around this person somehow. I want him to be part of my life. And, you know, I'm a little bit older, and he's a young kid. He's 2 years older than my youngest son, my oldest son. And, you know, we just hit it off. So fast forward, I'm driving down the road, actually heading to Idaho. I'm driving to Idaho, phone rings, it's Sebatien, and he says, hey, I'm thinking about opening a factory in Honduras. What do you think? And I pulled over and I said, okay, I'm in. How much you need? And I wired him some money. He's like, you don't need paperwork or anything? I'm like, no, whatever, we'll figure it out. And so we opened the factory here in Danlí about 16 months ago. And I'm happy to say, I'm also sad to say, we've outgrown the facility in 16 months.
That's
so we're
awesome.
down here
Wow.
trying to figure out what our next move is. And when you expand something, so we've created something here that's really unique. We've applied a Western style of leadership to running a factory in Central America. We have team leaders in departments rather than managers. There's no do what I say or else kind of philosophy. It's more of, hey, this is what our vision is, and this is how we're going to get there. It's a real change, and it created just this incredible environment. Like I said, last night we closed the street outside the factory. We brought in hot dog vendors, street carts. Down here in Danlí, they have this amazing hot dog vendor. We brought in hot dog carts, a French fry cart, and we just had a big party for the whole factory. And it's amazing to see people laugh and dance and just have a great time in their work environment as well. And that was
that's
really
what it's
important
supposed to
to
be
us.
all about, right? You know,
Oh,
I mean,
100%.
we've gotten away from that. And
Yeah, we
I
have.
think that's the where the disconnect is now. But no, that's
Oh.
awesome, man. That's
Yeah, 100% we've gotten away from that, right? I came from, corporate America where caring about people is a character flaw in the eyes of a corporation. What sense does that make?
Exactly. I'm still in corporate America.
So am
and
I.
From what it was back when my parents worked in corporate America, 30, 40 years ago, where, you had company softball games, people cared about one another. I mean, to the point where I remember at one time my grandfather had passed away, and my mom's employees actually came to the funeral to pay their respect. And that was not unusual.
Nope.
Right. Right. We've gotten so far away from that,
True.
Companies look at, people as expendable, where, I wish I could have been in the factory today, but at the same time, Saturday makes me really sad because it's just an empty building without the people there, right? The people are the heart of any business. They're the heart, they're the soul.
Yeah, they're what make the business.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I say it all the time when I walk in there and there's nobody in there. I say, Sebastian, right now, this really makes me sad because it's an empty shell right now. But when the people are there and they're smiling and producing quality, great product, that's what it's all about. Because at the end of the day, we're all cigar smokers, and everybody watching hopefully is a cigar smoker. If you're not, you should be. At the end of the day, those are the unsung heroes in the cigar business, right? Like, those are the people that we need to think about when we cut and light and share an experience with our friends. Those are the people that make it possible. There needs to be more focus from the cigar industry, and we have a couple of projects in the works that will highlight them in the future, because they're really the people that make it happen.
I really like the customer-centric focus, and also the employee-centric focus as well. I mean, it really shows in the product as we're smoking this. And I noticed when I look through some of your lines, it's like you guys really favor the Habano leaf.
We do. So back to what you're smoking. Somehow we got off on a tangent. You guys are smoking the USA exclusive. The company started in Geneva. So he did an exclusive for the USA. And what you have there is a San Andreas Negra wrapper with a Brazilian binder and some Nicaraguan and Honduran fillers. It's full-bodied, probably the most full-bodied in terms of strength cigar that we produce. And I'm really thrilled that you guys are smoking it first thing in the morning, because I have this theory that you need to smoke strong, full-bodied cigars in the morning and then work your way back to mild in the evening. The theory behind that is nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to pour myself a really weak cup of coffee. Who does that?
I've been doing it wrong all the time here.
But every cigar smoker has been taught, start with more mild in the morning and then work your way to full bodied in the evening. Like, why? Get up in the morning, get punched in the face, and start your day, man. That's what I'm all about.
I love it. I love it.
I like your thinking.
Yeah. So the first line that we created was the White Series, and it did feature a Habano wrapper with a Connecticut binder, which is really interesting. Not a lot of people do that. And the style of the first line, the White Series, is very indicative of Sebastian's roots in Switzerland and his time spent with a lot of Cuban cigars. And then for him to start working with San Andreas was a real challenge to him at the beginning, because it was not something his palate was used to. So he had to adapt. And so he created the Black 2 series, a USA exclusive, both featuring San Andreas wrappers, but with different binders and fillers. And then our newest release is Viso Halapa, which is an incredible cigar. It's actually a Nicaraguan Puro that's rolled in Honduras. And it features visos, which if you don't know, some of us do know, but the plant kind of has sections, right? So you have the bottom part, which is Seco, then the center part, which is Viso, and then the top part, which is Ligero. So the Viso Halapa features everything from the middle part of the plant. And Sebatien uses a lot of Visos, different primings of Viso, but he does focus in that center part of the tobacco plant.
Okay. Fellas, what are your first impressions? You know, we're getting into the very beginnings of this cigar. We're in like the first third. What are your impressions?
This is probably one of the damn best Maduros I've ever had. You know, I typically, as our listeners know, and Brian does not know because I haven't seen him in, well, hell, it's been at least a year. These Maduro is not one, normally not my go-to number one, but it is this one. It's rich, it's creamy, which is weird for me to get that impression out of it. Very cocoa, very coffee. So it's perfect this morning. I'm kind of irritated that my coffee's in the car, but such is life.
But you have the rum.
No, I don't. I don't drink.
No.
Oh, okay.
They do, but it's a wonderful stick. You know, I've been a fan of Cavalier ever since I was introduced to it by one of our friends, Bob. And so it's nice to be able to smoke one of the Maduros and go, hey, I kind of like this one.
You know, I myself, you know, I really didn't get into Cavalier until until Rocky Mountain.
Mhm.
I've had one or two on occasion, said, okay, pretty good. And I wound up buying like a couple of sampler packs at Rocky Mountain. And I was really fascinated with the brand. I'm like, oh, this is pretty damn good. I love the artistry. This has nothing to do with taste, but the artistry of the band. And I understand David Rojas, and I was trying to do a little research on Rojas, and wondering if it's the Rojas I'm thinking of, or is he a local Honduran artist, or is, you know, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, actually, he was a friend of Sebastian's. He passed away tragically in a car accident. So he designed the logo
Yeah.
of Cavalier, and you know, I can tell you, companies go through rebranding and change things. That'll never change for us because he was a very personal, close friend of Sebastian. Yeah, he passed away tragically in a car accident here in Danley. So yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I am the resident Maduro guy, I think, on the podcast.
I'd say that.
I enjoy Maduro cigars, and so like I said earlier, when I was reading Greg's notes on this, I couldn't wait to get a hold of this morning, and it is exceptional, sir. I'm third into it. It is super smooth, for a Maduro, especially. You know, a lot of the stuff that seems to have been coming out lately, you know, the last 3 or 4 years, as far as Maduro cigars, it seems like the trend is, you know, you want a harsh, you know, you want it to kick you, you want it just because it's darker doesn't mean it has to be harsh. And this is phenomenal. Just great draw. Just great flavor. I am really impressed with this.
I think we should point out too, the one that we were sent is the double Corona.
The double Corona, yeah. And we mentioned him earlier, but we need to give a shout out to Tommy up in Idaho. He's a great friend of our brand, and we love him. Actually, I met him for the first time at Rocky Mountain
last year.
Yeah.
No, I want to say it was before that.
Like 2 years prior?
No, it couldn't have been, because last year was his first trip.
Was that his first trip?
Yeah, it was his first trip. Mm-hmm.
Well, Jesus, it feels like longer than that. Wow.
Don't we know it?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow.
We love you, Tommy.
If you know, he's amazing. And yeah, and that Rocky Mountain Cigar Fest is an amazing venue, isn't it? I
It
mean,
is.
for me, you know, we do a lot of events throughout the year, but there's one that I leave and put on my calendar for the next year, and that's the Rocky Mountain, because it's an amazing, so well organized, well run. Similar to Great Smoke in Florida that Abe puts on at Smoke Inn. And you know, it's just, they're great venues, and you get to meet some really cool people.
Yeah, as far as Rocky Mountain goes, I think the secret's out, which was indicative of when they opened up ticket sales this year, because it was just a mad dash for everyone to get VIP tickets. And I can remember 3 years prior where it was
Even last year.
Yeah, even last year. Well, see, you can't really count last year because we had because we bought the previous year and it was COVID. We had basically carte blanche to get our tickets at our leisure. But even before that, when we first went to Rocky Mountain, it was a lot easier to get tickets because not a lot of people knew about it. And then it was just like all of a sudden, like this year, the secret's out, man.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I think a lot of that has to do with everybody in the industry talks about it as being just such an amazing experience. So, you know, we get asked that question all the time, like, what's your favorite event to go to? And I think everybody I hear says Rocky Mountain. So I think we let the cat out of the bag, you know?
Thanks, Brian.
Oh, we did it our first year when we started the podcast. We let the cat out of the bag too. So
True.
We were all responsible for this.
Yeah, but you got to remember, when we first let that out, we were nobodies. No one was paying attention to us.
Like we're somebody's now.
We got Brian on.
Yes.
You know,
and I'm a nobody too. So
Hey, thanks for having nothing else to do on a Saturday morning. By the way, you know, it's just slide in. Let's talk cigars for a minute.
well, Brian and I first met actually at a different lounge and a different company.
yes.
And that
Yes.
was when he was with Dion at Illusion. He and I met at Fumari.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was my entrance into the cigar industry, was through Illusion. You know, I'd been a fan of Illusion since like 2009. Had the privilege of meeting Dion about probably 10, 12 years ago now. And just an incredible cigar blender and a great guy to work with. You know, we still are friends to this day, even though I left him and moved on to this venture, which, you know, when I opened the factory with Sebatien, there was really no conflict because Illusion didn't have a factory. So it wasn't until Sebatien said, I really need your help, man. And I'm looking at this 30-year-old kid starting out here well, not here, but back home in the U.S. market. He's like, I really need your help. And so I became a partner in the brand with him, and then moved on. But Dion and I, to this day, maintain a great relationship. He just texted me. He's down in Nicaragua, and I keep inviting him up here. I'm like, come up to Honduras, man. Just come on up. But it's so hard to cross back and forth, cross the borders with COVID. It's easy to get into Honduras. It's really hard to get in and out of Nicaragua right now. Really difficult.
So you mentioned that you're outgrowing that factory already. What's the next move? I mean, is there bigger space available where you're at? Are you going to have to move? What's the story?
So we're going to have to add another operation, and the reason why I gave you a background of kind of what we've created is one of the things that I bring to the table is experience. That's why I have the white beard and Sebatien has the jet black beard. I bring a little bit of experience, right? You know, if you were buying and selling me, I'd be old when you bought me. I'd be vintage when you sold me because you'd get more money. But one of the things you have to be careful of is that you maintain the culture that you've created.
Absolutely.
especially in a young factory like this that's only 16 months old, you could kill the spirit of it if you don't strategically plan it, and make sure that on your whiteboard when you're planning out your next move, that maintain the culture is at the top of that board, right? Even if it means slowing down your expansion plan to do it right, you need to maintain what you've currently put in place if you're happy with it. And we're thrilled. I mean, Sebastian, and he came up to me last night, put his arm around me and said, "This really makes me happy." And I said, "We need to protect the culture of this going forward." And so we actually have people working in the factory that taught Sebastian how to roll, how to put cigars in cellophane, which, by the way, is the most damnedest task in the factory. You think putting a cigar in cellophane would be easy? I mean, it's crazy. But we actually have people working in the factory with us that taught Sebastian back when he was 22 years old, which is really amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so, if we can find the time when it's up and running to do another quick, just impromptu podcast like this from the factory, I'd love to take you on a tour. To show you an empty building would not do it justice. You need to have the heart and soul there of the factory, and that's the people.
No worries. We'd love to do that, man.
Absolutely.
Hey, I'd love to come out there and do it.
That's true too.
Oh, well, you're more than welcome. That's the thing we're going to start doing. Obviously, we built the factory smack in the middle of COVID, right? While everybody's trying to figure out if the world was ending, we're building a factory in Danley, Honduras. My mother thinks, well, she's always thought I was crazy, but now she knows it. She's like, "Honey, what are you doing? It's COVID. The world's coming to an end." I'm like, "Nah, it'll be okay, Mom. Don't worry. Everything always works out." And as it turned out, COVID created this little mini micro boom that we haven't seen since the 90s. And it's really cool because we had a lot of new people enter the cigar community during COVID. And one in particular, one segment of people that have entered the industry that's really cool to see is we're getting a lot more women into the cigar community. And
absolutely, we noticed that from
Facebook.
From Facebook, but also from the Rocky Mountain show. Having missed a year, because of COVID. So the first time we went was 3 years ago, and then 2 years ago they didn't have it, and then we went this last year. The number of women, not just there, but actually participating. They didn't just come with their husband and are hanging out. They bought a ticket so that they could get there. They could get the cigar experience. They could buy the cigars they want. I would say tripled from 3 years ago to last year.
Oh, you know what? We got to give some love to Cigar Chick.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so just want to give a shout out to her. I mean, fantastic lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's amazing, right? To see, and it's really cool, actually. There's a couple in Florida that I follow on Instagram. It's Smoking with My Baby, and they're always together. They hang out at a shop in Florida, and just think about the quality, right? Like, so if I'm a single guy, right? And so if I'm dating a girl that doesn't smoke or thinks they smell horrible or whatever, it really puts a strain on things, right? I mean, it's like, that's my first test. I pick a girl up for a first date, I light up a cigar in the truck, and I'm like, if she makes a face or rolls down the window, I pretty much buy her coffee, and that's the end of that, right? But
Brian, you have just proven me right to these two assholes right here.
They're gonna be assholes.
Because they've both told me, don't do that when you're meeting someone for a first date. Thank you for making sure that I'm right.
Well,
hold
you
on.
know,
Well, hold on a second. Hold
I'll
on a
let
second.
I'll let Lawrence field this one.
Okay, that's probably fine for Brian. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that, judging by the tiny little picture that I see of Brian 8 feet away from me, I'm going to say that Brian is roughly the same age as your father, and that probably works better in that age demographic than in your age demographic.
Whoa.
Probably you're probably younger than his father.
Brian's not 72.
I didn't know your dad was that old.
Yes, he is.
How was that? How was that for a segue? I didn't know your dad was that old. Yeah. Please, please give us more single cigar guy stories so that Greg's head can get bigger than it already is. Jesus Christ.
No, but
My boy.
think about it from this aspect, right? From the business side, first of all, right? If I'm dating a girl that doesn't smoke and it's a Friday evening and I say, hey, I'm gonna run down to the cigar shop and have a smoke, I've got a time limit, right? I'm probably in an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then I gotta go do my honeydew list, right? Where if she smokes, we both go down to the lounge. We maybe smoke 2 cigars each. So the brick and mortar shop sells me 4 cigars that evening rather than the one that I was gonna, have and go, right? So from the industry standpoint, it's amazing to have women come into it because it's creating more of that social environment and that social acceptability that we've, we were always viewed as these 50 and over old men sitting around, crotchety old men telling dirty jokes. We still are, right? Without a doubt. But just, now, we have a younger generation coming in. My son is, I have 2 sons, 28 and 22. My 28-year-old doesn't smoke, but my 22-year-old goes out with his friends and they have cigars and they bring their dates and they smoke cigars together. It's amazing to watch this transformation that we're in, and it's really cool and it's very healthy for the industry.
No, absolutely. Hey, and I'm sure the industry appreciates your, you're setting your dating example based on the fact that you need to participate in the brick and mortar more.
Pretty much.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of the younger generation coming in, our camera gorilla across from us is my oldest son, and I have 3 sons, 27, 24, and 22, and of the 3 of them, he would have been the last one that I would have expected to pick up this habit, because I've basically smoked cigars, their whole lives. And
right.
He got into it. His brother had this first son 3 years ago, and I got cigars. It's a boy cigars, novelty thing from here at the Brick and Mortar Tobacco Republic where we record the show, and everybody got a cigar. And that was literally the first cigar you smoked, wasn't it, Anthony?
Yeah. What was that, by the way? Because I keep trying to remember. I know they were in a Rocky Patel 7-year box, but was that?
No, they're actually part of the they're relabeled from the Yardstick line.
That's what I figured.
Which is the house.
So it's Nino Vasquez.
Yeah, Nino Vasquez, the house sticks here. They put a it's a boy or it's a girl label on them.
Oh, yeah, because you had given it to me, and it's like, this is essentially going to either be smoked or become rotting leaves. So I figured I'll smoke it, I'll throw up off the back deck of my rental, and we'll have a good time. An hour and a half later, I'm like, shit, I think I have a new hobby. And then
My man, gotcha, bitch.
Well, jokes on my dad, because then I stole Norteños out of his humidor for like 6 months until I finally got the nerve to come down to the shop. So
nice.
Brian's giving me the thumbs up. So
yeah, no, it's that's what I get for not having a lock on the humidor. Apparently,
that'll learn you.
But yeah, so yeah, I just crossed 3 years, so I'm definitely the novice in the group.
Well, it's great to have the younger generation too, and that's my bet on Sebatien, right? I mean, he's 30 years old right now. We're partners in a brand. We're partners in a factory together. He's going to be making cigars essentially. Hopefully I won't be dust, but there's a good opportunity I will be dust when he does that. So he'll carry that next generation in the industry. And whenever I've worked in any industry, you always have to be forward looking, and you have to be a steward of the industry that you're in. Because if you're not, who's going to be, right? Like, my mother's not going to be a steward of the cigar industry. She doesn't even have a clue what it is I do, you know. She keeps asking me, like, what are you doing down there in Honduras? You know, I'm sitting here smoking cigars, Mom. You know, I mean, no, it's actually a job, you know. It's a real job. So
yeah, nothing like trying to sell something to your folks when everybody in the conversation's an adult, huh? No, really, Bob. This is no. I get a check for this and everything. You know,
yeah, it's a fun job, but it's a job.
Yeah, no, it's amazing though to see the younger generation come in and you know, to be partnered with a 30-year-old kid who's like my son, which is really interesting. You know, you asked me back a little bit about how I got into the industry. It's kind of crazy how the world works. 30 years ago, I got sober. We established that, but it was only because 31 years ago, I lost my first son. And now the world has given me back what it took away from me in Sebatien, which is really, I mean, it's amazing. You know, every time I look at the kid, I get a little teary eyed, you know, and like we have a house down here in Honduras that we all lived in because the hotel bills were just getting out of control. And every night before he goes to bed, he gives me a hug and he says, "Good night, my brother." And I'm like, wow, you know, that's really freaking cool. You know, I mean, it's amazing. It's crazy how the world works, right? And so we have the most incredible partnership and team, and we are very grateful to you all and everybody listening for supporting the Cavalier brand, because at the end of the day, without you all, we could have the greatest factory in the world. We could make the greatest cigars in the world, but eventually they'll pile up to the point where even I can't smoke them all.
We'll help you on that.
I'll gladly help.
Yeah, you need somebody to smoke the pile down, man. You just say the word. But Brian, the flip side of that though is also true, man. The fact that that unique and special, you know, partnership relationship that you guys created is basically the driving force behind your brand. It's what has allowed you to create the culture that you talked about for your factory, for your employees, that is driving the success of your product right there, you know, and getting out and telling this story. I mean, this is amazing, man. There's so few positive stories about business, you know, especially lately. You know, it's people are cutting back, or you know, that company's and you know, they're assholes to their employees. There's this, there's that. So when it's, for me personally, when I get an opportunity to sit down and listen to somebody's just amazing story, incredible story about how they've come up, how they're taking care of their employees, how they're taking care of their, you know, their market, their niche, I love that, man. I want to support that type of thing. So.
No, I appreciate that. In fact, I'll share a story with you. We have a limited release, small batch is what we call it, Salomon, right? Because it's a very specialized pair of rollers that rolls Salomons. You know, you can't give a Salomon to just any pair and expect it to come out. So the pair that rolls our Salomon for us, they've been working together for 28 years in cigar factories. And
wow.
On my last trip, they took the time the day before I was leaving, they took the time to roll me a special cigar, and they handed it to me, which is huge because they took time out of their day to make me a cigar as a, hey, thank you for coming down. We can't wait to see you again. And so we talked a little bit, and the woman said to me something that stuck with me really hard. She said, you know, I've been at this for 28 years, and I was always a very happy person. I prided myself on being happy. She said, except for when I was at work, I was absolutely miserable. And now that I've joined your team here, I'm happy, completely happy in my life. And I'm thought to myself, doesn't everybody deserve that? You know, doesn't everybody deserve to be happy in their personal life and also happy during, because let's face it, we probably spend more time working than we do doing anything in our life. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
sleeping, you know, maybe sleeping for some, but, you know, I don't sleep very much. So, you know, but that really hit me hard, and it stuck with me. And, you know, at 55 years old, you think you have it figured out. But I thought, wow, that really is a huge statement that not a lot of people can make. And
Well,
so,
and look what perspective that puts on, you know, for, you know, again, what you guys are doing, you know, for somebody that is basically a master of that craft. You know, you don't make it 28 years in that industry, I'm assuming, by not knowing what the hell you're doing.
Right.
And
oh yeah,
for
yeah,
somebody that you know, you would have to consider a master of that craft to be able to say something like that about, you know, about the industry, the culture, the just the thing that you've created. I mean, God, that's exceptional, man. That doesn't happen, you know, twice in a man's lifetime. That's incredible.
no, I was truly, you're 100% right. I was truly blessed to have that conversation because it just reconfirmed our thoughts and our beliefs and our culture that we're doing, and it defies corporate logic, right? Like, people can
Right.
enjoy their job, they can still produce quality products for your company and still be happy, right? Like, you know, the last thing you want is to have unhappy people rolling your cigars, you know? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
you don't want any angry cigars coming out of your factory, right? Like, it just, you know, well, like, you know, Cuba went through that a few years ago where the rollers actually twisted the cigars just a little bit as a protest, not to let them draw. And so,
Wow.
you know, you don't want that. And, you know, your It's a Boy um, story there just reconfirms further about the people behind it. Think about the people in the factory that produce those cigars. And every time a baby's born, we celebrate with a cigar. Every
Yep.
time, how many business deals have been celebrated? How many weddings? You know, how many just things that we take for granted on a daily basis, we've lit up a cigar and sat down and enjoyed it. And then the people behind in the factories are the ones that made that possible. So
Yep.
it's really a focus of ours, and it's a core belief that you really can't teach, right? Which is what amazes me with Sebastian and I. um you know, people say, like, when if you're starting a business like you guys did, what's the key? And the key is to surround yourself with people that share a common vision. It's really hard to do. It's easier said than done, but everybody that works with us in the factory shares that same philosophy and that same vision. And so the key is to surround yourself with really great people, and the end result will be great cigars, right? Great products, whether it's cigars or whatever, it doesn't matter. at the end of the day, you're going to produce greatness because you get what you put in, right? If you put in fear into your employees, all you're going to get back out of them is fear. If you instill greatness in them, you're going to get greatness back out of them.
Well, and it's funny. I heard somebody say once, it's easier to keep the ball rolling than it is to get it rolling.
Exactly.
Now, have you found that now that you're 16 months into this, things are obviously going well? Are you seeing an interest from locals in the brand, in the process? And what I mean by that is somebody that's in the industry. Maybe he's been rolling somewhere else. Maybe he's been doing something else in the cigar industry somewhere else. Are you starting to get people approaching you now that, hey, we've heard about you guys? Do you have any openings? Do you have can I get a job? Are you seeing that type of stuff yet? Because
it's crazy that you mentioned that because we're small potatoes, right? I mean, we're 100 people. There's factories with thousands, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. And what's really interesting to see is factories, those bigger factories are coming over and talking to the leader of our factory, what you would call the general manager. I refer to him as the father of the family. Not that it's cultish or in any shape or form, but just he needs to think of himself that way. They have factories coming over and talking to him and asking him for advice, which is amazing to see that and it's great for the industry. I've always felt like the larger corporations in this industry need to reach across the lines and come and take an interest in what us smaller, I hate the word boutique, but I'll use it because I don't think there's been a new one invented yet. To see them come and ask questions of us is amazing, and it's great, and it's healthy for the industry.
It's nice to see the industry embrace, the smaller, again, boutiques, because, that's, like it or not, that's the future of I think this industry, because we're going to see, in our cigar lifetimes, we are going to see guys like you that started out, with an idea and a few people in Honduras. You will be a name brand in this industry,
no doubt,
before I'm done. And
God willing.
Well, but it's, I mean, it's inevitable. The fact that you're getting people coming in wanting to see, that roll cigars, that do this for a living, that's a testament that your employees are talking about how the culture is and how the the work is done, and that it's different than some of the other places. The fact that a 6,000 employee operation is looking to you and your GM as to, hey, how you doing this? I mean, that's, and competition's good. It keeps everybody honest, and that's amazing, man. That's
so cooperation.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're all in this together, so let's do our best to work together. But now that's amazing.
Well, on that theme, I would say, I want to touch upon something you said about maybe 20 minutes ago, where your relationship between you and Sebatien, he shows you love at the end of the day, and you perpetuate that love to your employees. They perpetuate the love in what they do, creating this cigar, putting this cigar out into the world and bringing it out to this community. We've said a million times on this podcast what this community means to us personally. And, the cats I do this podcast with, man, I ain't ashamed to say, I love them. They're my brothers. They're my family. And, we do this so, be a positive part of the community. And you guys are the beginnings of that. The cigar manufacturer is the beginning of perpetuating that love to the community. And I just want to say I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. No, Sebatien and I talk a lot about we don't sell cigars, we sell experiences, right? And
awesome.
when you look at that, when you look at the business from that aspect, it changes the way you think about it, right? Anybody
Yeah.
can go out and peddle a product, right? I mean, I'm old enough to remember door-to-door vacuum salesmen. Right?
Same here, man.
Oh yeah. I
So,
remember.
I mean, you know, we really put a focus on the experience side, and I love the fact that you guys use that word. You're using some of our words that we, talk about day in and day out, and that's experience, community, journey. Um, the business side of things takes care of itself. I had the privilege of working for a very young startup hospitality company many, many years ago. Guy's name was Horst Schulze, and he started a company that is now today known as the Ritz-Carlton. It has since been sold to the Marriott Corporation and subsequently ruined.
Yeah.
Amen.
But when he started it out, I had the privilege of seeing the insight and hearing the things that he talked about. And a lot of his philosophy stuck with me today. And it was all people oriented. We did a live a few weeks ago, Sebastian and I, and the guy stopped us about 45 minutes into the live, and he said, "You guys have been on here for 45 minutes and haven't said fuck all about yourselves. All you did was talk about the people that are with you." It's like, it's amazing. We don't see that. And at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's about the community. It's about the journey. It's about the experience. And it all starts here in the manufacturing end of it, in these countries, that people really, 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 really are happy. They're great people. They're the warmest people you'd ever want to be around. I mean, my mother says to me every time I come down here to Honduras, "Honey, be careful. It's very dangerous down there." And I say to her, "Mom," that my answer is the same every time. I said, "Mom, when's the last time you were in Honduras?" And she says, "Never." And I'm like, "Well, how do you know it's dangerous? Because what the media told you?" I mean, you've got to stop listening to that crap, right? There's dangerous places in any part of the world you travel in. I mean, you go to New York, you go to LA, you go to, I mean, Las Vegas, Reno,
True.
Miami, where I live. There's places you just don't want to go. But what's sad about it is the people, the good people, get overshadowed by the bad stories that come out of countries like this.
No, that's
And
absolutely true.
yeah, if I owned the country of Honduras and it was my company, I would rebrand it and remessage it, because there's a lot of beautiful things to this country, and the people are just amazing. I mean, to have a pair of rollers make me a cigar, I'm not going to lie to you, I freaking cried in my factory because it touched my heart so much that they would take time out of their day to do that. And so, think about those things when you're smoking cigars. I mean, we think about a
That's
lot of things,
absolutely, man.
you know,
Putting it all
think
in
of,
perspective right
Yes.
there.
yeah,
Hey,
think of,
Ryan, I want to back up on something for a second. You talked about uh how many more women you're seeing uh getting into the cigar world. Um have you noticed over the last few years, seems to be a lot more of younger guys picking up cigars, I think maybe earlier than they would have, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago?
100%. So the younger generation, and you have a son in that generation, so do I. They're different kind of consumers than we are. They want to know the backstories. They want to know everything there is about the products that they're purchasing.
You know, it,
Um,
it
and I
was
think if,
funny. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
It was funny. You know, I've been coming into Tobacco Republic here in Loomis for, 20 years plus. And it used to be when there was a group of guys sitting here in the lounge and a younger guy come in, he was looking for papers or vape or something like that. Right. I mean, that was every time, oh, you guys sold, you got cool milds here. No, man, get the hell out of here. But now that's rare. You see 22-year-olds come in and they're actually here looking for a particular cigar. Do they carry Camachos here? Yeah, come on in, dude. And it was weird the first couple of times. I was like, yeah, what's my kid guy? My kid's I know that kid. He went to school with my kid. And they're actually looking for cigars and not as a gift for somebody's a dad or uncle, for themselves. And I was like, so when that hit home, it was like, hey, man, it's like we've crossed the threshold. You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%. And I was in a shop not too long ago, and a girl walked in, and the guy said, "Are you looking for something for your dad?" And I jumped right up and I said, "Hold on, I've got this. We'll talk about this in a minute." I said, "What do you like to smoke?" And she was like, "Thank you so much, because I hate that freaking question, like, are you buying it for your dad or your husband or whatever?" You used to be able to make that assumption when younger generation people would walk in or women would walk into a shop that they were there to buy for somebody else. Now they're enjoying the very experience that we all enjoy. It's like the cat's been let out of the bag on that too, right? Like kind of like Rocky Mountain. Everybody's like, I wonder what that's all about. And, as the younger generation will carry this industry forward, people ask me all the time about what causes the death of a brand, right? I'll give you an example of one, Nat Sherman. I mean, everybody I know that smoked Nat Sherman died. So,
God. Wow. That's funny you say that, because we're setting up today. And Greg, what the hell are you doing?
Anthony, I realize what you just saw. Don't worry about it.
All right, well, technical difficulties. We're setting up today. Out. There's like 3 boxes of cigars stacked up on the little counter here, across from where we're all sitting, and we're doing. Greg's running cords, and we're putting up stands, and Anthony's getting the table out, and I started like I'm all. Did that say Nat Sherman's? Like, holy shit! How old is this?
Wow. Well, and the sad part is the brand, the company died. Unfortunately, the brand has not, because Davidoff now is distributing it. Either that's distributing what they have left, or they're taking over the rolling. Either way, at least the cigars are still there for now.
Yeah, and I wasn't bashing on him. I was just speaking to the.
We didn't, I wasn't. We didn't get that impression either, but it was just.
Yeah, no, I wasn't.
Funny.
I wasn't bashing. It's just that my great uncles and everybody that's they've been in the earth for a long time now. That's what they used to smoke. Because I'm from the Northeast, right? And. Well, so you have to appeal to the younger generation, because they're going to carry us.
To your point, Nat Sherman did nothing to create any type of marketing, any illusion that they were anything but a cigar for some crusty old man. I mean, when all the crusty old men were gone, they didn't have any people buying their stuff anymore.
100%, and that's why Cavalier has a bipolarity to it. We still have a classic elegance, but we also have, because of the people behind the brand, a little bit of a street side to it. And that's perfect positioning. The one thing we haven't talked about is the gold on the cigars, which you can smoke through the gold. And that was put on there to differentiate it on the shelf. As you know, from a shop, being if your tobacconist makes a recommendation to somebody and gives them a cigar and that person returns to the shop and says, "Hey, that cigar you turned me on to was amazing. It had a red band on it." You don't know which cigar you know,
Right.
you have
Absolutely.
no idea. But when I've seen it time and time again with Cavalier, when people come back into the tobacconist and say, "Hey, that cigar you turned me on to, it had a gold diamond on it," you know exactly what he's talking about, you know. So actually, I wish Sebastian or myself could take credit for that, but it was actually Sebastian's wife, who is from Danlí. They met down here. Um, so it's really amazing for all of us to see the impact we're making on her hometown is really cool. I mean, that's really cool.
How big a town is Danley?
It's a couple 200,000, 250,000. It's changing very, very rapidly. You know, from when we started building the factory probably 2 years ago, there's been an incredible change, and there's actually two large players coming into town in the industry that have one has never been here, one's returning, and there's rumor of a third one coming into the area. And you know, change is good, but let's just hope that it's good change, right? That's
Yeah,
what you have to hope
that's
for.
important. Now, did you
Yeah.
guys build from the ground up?
We actually did not. We purchased a house that was in the Placencia family, and they are an amazing family, by the way. The generosity, the support that they have given us as a young company, um, I say it all the time. There's no way to repay that. We just have to pay it forward, right? That's the only way we can repay that. So we have a house that has tobacco history. A lot of people have stayed in that house. In fact, I was on a video call with a manufacturer out of the Dominican, and he said, "Give me a little tour of where you are." And when I showed him the house, he said, "I stayed there." So there's a lot of history to the house. That's why if we if and when not if I guess it's when we expand, we will continue the operation where it currently is, because there's a lot of history. For example, AJ Fernandez, when he immigrated from Cuba, he stayed in the second floor of our factory during that time. Guys like Rocky Patel have
so
stayed
cool.
there. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
So there's a lot of history to the building. So everybody always asks us, "Will you move out of this facility?" And the answer is hell no, not in a million years. We will always maintain that as the base of operations for whatever
Right
we
on.
do going forward. And that's just because of who we are, right? I mean, we don't take for granted where we're at ever. And so to maintain something with a little bit of tobacco history, like where the rolling floor used to be the backyard, and Nestor Placencia used to sit in the backyard, and people remember sitting like over where that rolling table is, where there was a table where I used to sit with Nestor and have conversations. And we will never, never, ever take that away. We'll keep that part of the family for as long as we're around, and even
That's
after.
That's beautiful.
Man. That just makes us want to travel down and see you guys.
Yes,
Oh,
it
yeah,
does.
man.
Well,
Yeah,
you
just-
have an open invitation.
Oh, outstanding.
Thank you.
Now I got a question for you. You've done any diving out there?
I have not. I haven't even made it over to Roatan yet. It's on my list of things to do. In fact, it was funny that you mentioned that, because we were driving home last night, and it's amazing, you know, how long the days are, yet how fast they go.
Yeah.
I mean, we started our day at 6 a.m. yesterday, and we were driving up to the house at about, I want to say it was probably 9:45. We had just left the factory at night. And I said to Sebastian, when we get our next phase done, we're all gonna take a trip to Roatan and just smell the roses for a little bit, right? Because that's one of the things that I'm trying to teach Sebastian and his wife is that the cigar business will be there tomorrow, and if it's not, we're all fucked anyway. So stop what you're doing.
Yeah, slow down. Pump the brakes a little bit, huh?
Yeah, pump the brakes a little bit and enjoy. His wife is an extremely hard worker, and last night we were having a party at the factory, and she was in the office doing the box design for our next release at PCA. And I walked up to her and I put the lid of her computer down and I said, "No, it's not happening right now. It'll happen this weekend. We'll sit, have a cigar, and we'll finish up this weekend. But right now, you're gonna go outside, have a hot dog off the cart, which, by the way, was amazing. Oh my god!"
Man,
So
dude,
they
you're
make
killing
these.
us with this
You're-
hot dog.
yeah.
You
thing,
do
man.
realize you're talking to 4 fat people.
Yeah,
for
well,
yourself.
I'm a fat guy too. I even know what's across the street from where you guys are at. There's that hamburger joint with all the shakes, right?
Yes,
yeah,
there is.
I can't remember the name of it. Taylor's,
Taylor's.
I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
Taylor's.
see?
Yeah.
Taylor's.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, they have that whole board with the shakes
yeah.
listed, and so I think it's really important. No, if you come down, you'll get the full Honduran experience. We just had for the last 3 weeks guests here at the factory, different brand owners down at the factory, people that want to do some cigars out of our home, and it's at capacity, but we started this whole thing with the idea that we would support the Cavalier brand, but also give people a home that needed it. Like I had a friend of mine say to me, my production's backed up. I need to do a special project. And they're telling me I can't get it until 2024. Can you help me out? So he flew down. And if you guys come, we always make sure everybody, and it's not like we do anything different than what we normally do. You're just going to live life with us, but we enjoy what Honduras has to offer. Like,
Yes.
we eat pupusas, we eat tacos, catrachos, and we go eat hot dogs off the street. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jeremy Castagli and his brand.
I've smoked a
I don't
few.
think I am.
Daughters of the Wind and Villa Castagli. Anyway, he's a British guy, very proper, and we had him in the street eating a hot dog off of a cart that is just in his words, it was a bloody nightmare because they put so much stuff on it, and it's amazing. But if you come down here, you just live life with us, and you'll experience what the greatness that is Honduras.
Yeah, about 15 years ago. It's been 15. Yeah, there about 15 years ago. I was in Rotan and I got my
Mhm.
diver cert. So definitely between the time now and by the time we get there, you guys got to get your diving cert. We got to go to
Mhm.
Rotan and dive Butcher's Block, second
Oh,
largest
nice.
barrier reef in the world.
Nice.
It is
Yeah,
beautiful.
I've seen pictures, and it's on my bucket list. Actually, one of my bucket list items was to smoke a cigar with Jeremy Castagli. We had only met on Zoom meetings,
Okay.
and it turns out that he said to me, "Hey, I have a need for a line extension on my brand, and I need you to help me." And I can never say no to anybody, right? So I said, "Come on down." So we crossed that off my bucket list last week, and so now Roatan is at the top of the bucket
Oh,
list.
yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
You
Hey,
know.
so I heard you say PCA. Does that mean you're going to be in Vegas in July?
We will be in Vegas in July, and
Right on.
So will we.
and we'll have a cigar together for sure.
No, absolutely,
Oh, yeah.
man. Looking forward to it.
So let's let the cat out of the bag. We've kept it quiet for a few weeks now. We achieved our membership in PCA last month.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. That's amazing. I'm actually up for a board seat as a manufacturer. So if you get a ballot in the mail, I would appreciate, not that I'm a politician and I don't know how to lobby for it. So I don't know if I'll be successful, but I'm up for a board seat in PCA as a on the manufacturing board.
That's
You
fantastic.
got our
Yeah,
vote,
you got
brother.
our vote.
No
That's
problem.
for sure.
I appreciate that. I'm gonna just put you down for a second. You're gonna see the ceiling for a minute. I gotta light my cigar. I can't multitask.
We
But yeah,
understand that.
with regards to PCA, I think they're at a very critical point, right? There's been a little bit of a fracture in the industry, which is bad for any industry when the leaders of the industry, or the perceived leaders of the industry, those with the biggest checkbooks, are not participating in the trade organization. It's really bad for the industry. So I gotta try not to burn my beard while I light my cigar.
The struggle is real, man.
Oh yeah.
So PCA is at a critical point right now where they need to shift a little bit their messaging. And I was humbled when they asked me to throw my name into the ring, because at the end of the day, who am I? I'm not second, third generation tobacco guy. I'm small. I'm in the boutique world. And so for them to ask was really an honor, and it was humbling. So I threw my name in, and like I said, I'm not out there pounding the street, but I kind of would like to, because I see the importance of a trade organization. As in any industry, they do have a purpose, and for the greater good of the industry.
No, absolutely. And the way things are trending politically, the industry could get run over
Really
quickly and decimated with taxes, with regulations, with with a whole myriad of things if we as consumers, through some sort of trade industry, don't step up the focus a little bit and remind the powers that be that, hey, this is a product that we want, and we want it at a reasonable price without a bunch of restrictions.
And that's actually, if you don't mind, a shameless plug for our next episode real quick here. And Brian, I'd love you to throw your thoughts in on this too, is that our next show that comes out after yours, this show we're recording now comes out on the 15th of May. The next show that will come out on Memorial Weekend, we're going to be discussing the new proposed regulation regarding the menthol ban on cigarettes and the flavor ban on tobacco, on cigars, because it really looks like, from my interpretation of reading the stuff that has been put out on Half Wheel and a few other fellow media groups, you can't even describe a premium cigar flavor profile with flavor descriptors, because they would then classify that as a flavored cigar. So it's one of our topics of discussion for the next show.
It's a great topic, right? And as an industry, we get lumped in with the vape and smoking, and all that. I made a post on Instagram a couple of weeks ago that's asked the question: am I the only one that, when I'm filling out an insurance, life insurance or whatever form at the doctor, and they ask, are you a smoker? Do I check no, right? Because that's not what you're asking me. You're not asking me, do I enjoy a premium cigar? You're asking me, do I smoke cigarettes, right? That's what you're asking me.
Yep.
And I think one of the first things we need to do is to differentiate that on all the medical forms. Is, do you enjoy premium cigars, or are you a cigarette smoker, or do you vape? They need to be segregated out, and that would help us differentiate ourselves as an industry, because right now smoking is smoking, right? My grandfather smoked cigars, right? And he died from lung cancer. What my mother fails to tell you is that he smoked 3 packs of unfiltered Lucky Strikes a day, along with a premium cigar. But in her opinion, it was smoking in general that killed him. The cigar had nothing to do with it.
Absolutely.
It's like when my doctor tells me you need to smoke less cigars, I tell him to shut the fuck up. I know a lot of.
You know, that's
I know.
funny because I got a phone call from my healthcare provider, and you know, I knew this was coming because when I went on my last doctor's appointment, they asked, you know, that question, "Do you smoke?" And yeah, I told them, "Yeah, I smoke cigars." And they said, "Well, we have some great tobacco cessation programs." I was like, "I'm perfectly happy where I'm at." They's like, "Okay, just don't be surprised if you get a phone call from, I don't know what you call them, a health advocate." So they called me on Friday and she asked me, she says, "Well, I see that you smoke and just want to see if you're interested in quitting." And I said, "Nope. Okay, you have a nice day." I was just like, "No, I'm not going to be." I mean, the temptation was to be really rude about it, but it's like, no, this poor girl's doing her job. So I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
I'm okay. You know,
I'm good. I'm good. I got
over
this.
to the other side, brother.
Not a chance.
Well,
But
you know,
that too is fun. You know, how many people that all of us collectively, including Brian, how many people we've introduced to the premium cigar world that are like, this is nowhere near what I thought it was, because the perceived vision versus what is reality.
oh, absolutely. You know, I'm going to go back to my dating world, right? When I meet a girl and she says, "Can you stop smoking?" And I'm like, yes, I could stop for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months if I don't want to. But I can. It's not nicotine addiction like cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, if I went a couple of days, because I pay attention to camera monkeys trying to get your attention. Jesus. I went a couple of days because I was out of the area for work, and I don't feel like I'm, you know, missing something. I mean, I smoke every day, but I can go, a couple of days without a cigar and not be jittery and, feel like I'm, withdrawn. You know what I mean?
Well, at the end of the day, people don't realize that what we're smoking is nothing like us. They don't even know what's in cigarettes, right?
Yeah.
We know what's in our product. It's organically grown.
Yes.
There's no chemicals added to it. My family just woke up. My mother's calling me. My brother's calling me. It's crazy. We don't put additives to get you addicted. That's been the game of the cigarette world for ages, right?
Yes.
They wanted to get you addicted. There is nobody that I know that can say they're addicted to cigars. And I told you, I smoke from when I wake up to when I go to bed. It's not an addiction. It's not there's no chemicals in my body that are making me smoke. I smoke because it enjoys me. I enjoy it. It relaxes me, and it's what I do for a living too, right? So let's not forget that part, right? But at the end of the day, I think that's a great. Episode for you to have, and I take my hat off to you for attacking that. The problem that the PCA has is they used to fight the battle at the federal level. Unfortunately, that battle has moved now to the state and local levels, right?
It absolutely has.
You have cities, you have counties, you have whatever they're called, townships or whatever, creating their own smoking bans and laws. And the problem is the budget isn't big enough to fight that battle. From a lobbying standpoint, you just can't. You would need an infinite bag of money to be able to fight that. We are in a critical point in the industry, and what the regulators don't see, and we're going to go back to the original conversation about the people down here, is they don't see that the only thing they're going to hurt are the people down in these countries, right? That's the only people that they'll hurt. Now, what I keep saying is go ahead and outlaw cigar smoking. We'll put Visqueen on the windows and we'll make Al Capone kind of money, right? Like,
Mhm.
There
I'm
you
good
go.
with that. That's the Sicilian in me coming out, right? Like,
There
so,
we go.
Right on.
Good with it.
I mean, if there's one thing history has taught us is you can't regulate and tax something out of existence that people want, and they're so
Exactly.
short-sighted on that. It's amazing.
Well, one
It
of the things
really
I will say, though, it's not just incumbent on organizations like Smoker Friendly and PCA. The consumer has to get involved.
Yes.
If you are a cigar smoker, and I'm putting this challenge out there to everybody who's listening, pass this on. If you're a cigar smoker, you got to get active. You can't just leave it to an organization to do your dirty work for you. You've got to get out there and educate people about cigars and talk about what it means to you and what it is, and educate them as like, this is an organic product. We're not adding chemicals to it or the like, as you said. This is something that we enjoy, and you trying to legislate it out of existence is just not going to happen. Greg and I got into a, not really an argument, but a quasi discussion about this whole flavor ban. And I said, well, the manufacturer may not be able to if this goes down, but I surely can. And he's like, well, no, you can't. I said, well, what about my First Amendment right? Because now you're
Right.
trampling on the First Amendment. So if I give an opinion on a cigar and I say that, I'm getting hints of cocoa or whatever, that's my business. I can say whatever the hell I want.
100%. 100%, and it's one of the things that I talked to PCA about, which is I guess how they asked me to throw my hat in the ring, is I'm like, look, there's really three pillars to this industry, right? There's consumers, there's manufacturers, and there's retail shop owners that are part of this, that make up this all encompassing of this industry. And everybody needs to have a voice and an equal say in things, right? Their voice needs to funnel up to the organization rather than the organization's voice funneling down. And to your point, everybody needs to get involved in this because it's really bad what they're trying to do. I mean, the state you're in, California, they don't realize that by raising the tax on tobacco, on premium cigars, they just pushed business outside of the state of California. I mean, we saw that when I was living in Reno. I mean, how many times did I see you all in Fumare coming across the hill, making a stop at Cabela's, buying your ammunition, and then coming into the shop and buying your cigars? All
We'd
you
never
did
do
was
that with
push.
ammunition. No.
No, ammunition, that would be illegal.
That's illegal. That's a felony. No. Cigars, yes.
But I mean, for the most part, that's all they've done is just push money outside the state, and the data exists that when you lower the tax rate, the revenue goes up, right? There's I have an economics degree, and there's a bell curve, and I can't remember who it's named after because I'm not that good with names anymore, but there's a bell curve that shows where your critical point is on taxation, and nobody pays attention to this and nobody talks about it. And it's like, well, there's a lot of people a lot smarter than all of us that have studied this. Just follow the data. And then the other thing that I told PCA to do was in your lobbying efforts is to align yourself with an organization like AA, because the one thing we established is there's a lot of quitters in cigar shops. And when they make the argument that cigars are evil and they're bad for you and they're this, just have AA write a letter about, even if it's one life that it saved, which it did, in my opinion, my life saved my life 30 years ago. How do you argue that? You can argue statistical medical data and all that stuff. You can always argue the other side. How are you going to argue that an industry like premium cigars and the community and the journey that everybody's on has saved people's lives from addiction? How do you argue that? If you try to argue it, you look like an asshole. right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, you do.
Unfortunately, though, Brian, the government doesn't care. They'll look like that asshole. That's a problem.
Oh, they enjoy looking like assholes. I think that's part of their. I think that's part of their agenda. But at the end of the day, at least you make an argument that's a humanitarian and and based around people versus numbers. You can always argue statistical data. It's like that joke. You get a second grader, a mathematician, and a lawyer in a room. Ask them what 2 + 2 is, and the second grader will tell you it's 4. The mathematician will do a series of calculations and tell you that it's 4, and the attorney will ask you the question, what do you want it to be, right? So I mean, you can always argue statistical data, but you can't argue from a human aspect of how it changes people's lives. And so that's one of the things. I guess I opened my mouth maybe and verbalized my opinion, and then the next thing you know, I'm being asked to get to sit on the board, but I got to get elected to the board. And I think there's some good that the trade organization can do.
Well, and it's, we hope that, you're able to A, get there,
Yes.
and B, put your positive spin on that. That's the direction that these industries, whether it's PCA, whether it's, cigar friendly, whether it's whoever, even us as individual, consumers, we need to get that positive message out there, and not just stamping our feet and waving our sign, don't tax our cigars. The more positive, that message is going forward, the better it is for the entire industry.
I would go even further, though, and this is not hyperbole, but how many of us, I mean, between the three of us and Camera Gorilla over there, when's you've been in a real dark place? I mean, I was in a real dark place in January, and when a cat calls me up, is like, "Are you all right?" And first thing he's like, "Hey man, let me come over. Let's have a smoke."
Yep.
We don't even have
Right.
to say anything. We could have a smoke. I mean, how many lives did that save? People who are just down. I mean, cats come in down and out for whatever reason, and with a smoke, they're either A, leaving laughing, or just kind of like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
settled everything back down to, your
Mhm.
status quo, and we can continue with our day, continue with our week, continue with whatever.
Right.
So,
100%. 100%. That's all great stuff, and it's messages that need to be heard. Now, unfortunately, like you said, politicians and regulatory bodies, they don't think that way, right? That would be logical, right? They don't think logically. And one of the things that they teach you when you negotiate is you have to have both sides have to be coming from a logical, rational point of view. And the problem with regulatory bodies is they're not.
Right.
And so it's the reality is cigar smokers represent probably 0.1% of the population, right? We're too small of a group. When you meet with a legislator of any kind, the first question he asks is his secretary or whoever books the meeting for you is, how many voters do they represent? And unfortunately, we don't represent a large enough voter base to effectuate change. So we have to align ourselves with people that do have a larger voter base. Then they have to listen to us.
makes sense.
Mhm.
That is so true.
And it's sad that you have to play a game in order to get a positive message out there. But again, it's politics, right? So,
Yep.
Well, knowing that in advance makes it a little easier.
you're right. Right. You have to know your adversary before you enter the battle, right? So I think, I think this industry, as we move to more of a lifestyle industry, will gain attention unto itself. It's going to take time. It's going to take perseverance on our part to not let it get stifled at any point along the way. And again, I'm going to go back to the people here in Honduras. You take You take the cigar industry out of a town like Danley and it dies.
Yeah.
It dies. I mean, there's coffee, tobacco, and some other industry that's probably not positive, that is 1, 2, and 3 on the hierarchy here. If you take tobacco out of this town, it dies. I mean, I know myself, if I got regulated to where I couldn't exist anymore, I now have the responsibility not just for 100 people. See, 100 people is a surface level view. It's the 5, 6 people behind those 100 people that live with them or close to
Right.
them, their families,
Yep.
that rely on this industry. So the number, the
Yeah, the number
cumulative math,
perpetuates. Yeah.
it does.
Expands exponentially for sure.
That's one of the conversations that I had with Sebastian when he said he wanted to start a factory. I said, you do realize the responsibility you're taking on. And that is not just for the 100 people that work with us at the factory. It's their families that rely on them. So that number could be up around 600, 700 in a heartbeat, right? So,
hey, I want to jump back onto this cigar. We're Scott's motored about through it. Greg's almost through it, and I'm not quite. Camera girl is kind of dragging behind over there.
It's also a different level of cigar that he smoked before.
This is the third Maduro in 3 years, so I am well aware of my limitations and I am sticking to them. But it is,
Well, you know what? Talk to me. What do you
talk
think
to
of
us.
I'm enjoying it immensely. I, from what Greg said earlier, definitely kind of the coffee and cocoa notes, and it's more powerful than I'm used to, but it's not harsh. It's not. I've been coming here long enough to know to be careful with the Maduros. I've heard the horror stories. I'm the novice, but I'm not uneducated. So I'm taking it slower. I'm maybe just now getting to the second, third, but it's been enjoyable, and I'll work through it probably a good part of the rest of the day, just because that's the speed I'll go with it. But I'm enjoying it immensely.
it's a big cigar to tackle. Double Corona is a big one. We do make it in a petite Corona as well.
Nice. Getting into the last third of this, Brian, the flavor is just incredible and not harsh. I've smoked a lot of Maduros, and I don't know what it is that makes manufacturers feel that once you start with a Maduro, it has to be harsh. Because that seems to be the norm, more often than not. You get a Maduro or a double Maduro, or and it's like, okay, buckle the seatbelt, here we go. This is super creamy and just really, really great flavor, but without that just bite or punch or harshness. And it's just, this is an amazing cigar, man.
And I think, one of the things, sorry, Scott.
No, you're good, brother. You're good.
One of the things that I've noticed is, you're talking a 7.5-inch cigar. I would expect, in theory, a couple flavor changes, but the consistency, the flavor tone, it hasn't changed. It's just made such an enjoyable experience, even though, in normal circumstances, I would sit by myself or with you guys and smoke and pay more attention to it, but I haven't had to relight, I haven't had to retouch, and it's been such a beautiful flavor the whole way through that damn, I don't have any more, because I gave the fifth one we were given, I gave to a fellow listener on Thursday to enjoy, so he could see what we were going to talk about, and he loved it too. Dutch is it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
I appreciate that very much, and I think it's something we should probably talk about a little bit, because people refer to making a cigar as blending, right? You are blending to some extent different tobaccos, but more so you're trying to accomplish a balance, right? And I tell people that a lot when they talk about blending. I'm like, yes, it's blending, but it's the key to creating a blend is achieving that balance, right? And so that to me is I appreciate the kind words that you guys have for the USA exclusive. It's something that we try to achieve in all our cigars is a balance of depth of flavor, right? And you know, when you put a blend together, and to be totally honest, sometimes they come together purely by accident, right? And sometimes you have to work them a little bit, but what you're working is to accomplish that balance that you need. And to your point about that aggressive harshness, that's easy to achieve because you don't have to spend time working it to achieve that balance.
Yeah, I would say, as far as this Maduro goes, and you know, I've talked about this from time to time. Sometimes you want that smack in the face, or as my Russian brothers and sisters would say, strong like ox. But this isn't it. This is just a really enjoyable smoke. And I'm going to go back to my rating system real quick here on a scale of 1 to take your ass to flavor country. I'm in the 3rd day of kicking back in flavor country and loving it.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's not getting hot. You know, some of the cigars in this size, especially a Maduro, you start getting down to where you got, you know, inch and a half left, and you're doing the tap dance, you know, with your fingers, because that thing is getting hot and you're feeling that as you're drawn in. Nah, man, this thing is incredible.
No ash taste either. It's wonderful.
Well,
Thank
no, you
you.
haven't hit the gold yet. Me, I'm down to the nub, and I'm like two thumbs left, and I'm on, like, you know, last half sit on that thumb, and it still feels cool, and it's still, you know, it's smokable. It's smokable at this point, because a lot of Maduros, that tobacco get heated up on that end, and yeah, you're doing that tap dance and trying to do in a roll to make sure, you know, you don't look like you've been smoking a crack pipe.
Well, I'm always careful with the mustache and beard. You start getting short on something like that, and it's getting hot. My tendency is I'll blow back through it just a little bit, and you know, more than once I have taken a trim on one side of the mustache or the other from blowing back through one, because it'll pop on you and you're like, oh shit, I just set myself on fire.
Yeah, I'm on fire. You're not on fire.
He'd be all right.
You're not on fire, Ricky Bobby. You know, the thing is, manufacturers that I'm going to go back to something you said about every once in a while you want that punch in the face, right? And as manufacturers, what the last thing we want to hear is that you only smoke our brand, right? Cavalier. Cigar smokers are not cigarette smokers in that they're brand dedicated. All we can ask as a manufacturer is that you make us part of your journey and visit us occasionally along the way, right? And that's really what we want. I mean, the question we get asked a lot of times is, when you're not smoking your cigars, what do you smoke? And it's like, well, hell, I'm a cigar smoker, man. I smoke all kinds of brands. I mean, you know, I'm on a journey too, you know, and so all we ask is that, you know, you just make us stop and make us part of your world for an hour and a half to 2 hours every once in a while. That's all you can ask as a manufacturer. That's all you should ask.
Since you brought that up, question for you: when you got started, did you stick with a particular line for a little while, or were you all over the map right from the beginning?
No, I was all over the board from the beginning. Now, I started many years ago, pre the boom in the 90s. So the first boom really changed the way I smoke, because those of us that lived through the cigar boom realized right away something happened immediately, and that was the quality completely took a hit, right?
No, absolutely. And that's the reason I brought that up, is because You know, I've been smoking these 25 years.
Right. So you
almost,
lived through it.
almost, 25, almost, 30 really, but, kind of casual, here and there smoker the first 5-6 years. And I was pretty dedicated in a particular brand, not necessarily the same cigar every time, but I was pretty brand specific because I liked it. They had good cigars. And then just like you said, when the boom hit and, and the quality kind of turned left for a minute, I was really disappointed. I mean, that brand had a definite change in the quality of their cigars, and it was the proprietor here at Tobacco Republic, and he tried several times, to his credit, to try to get me off that pedestal. Here, try this, try that. No, I like these, I'm gonna stick with these. And then I came rolling in one day and I'm like, hey Ron, what was that other cigar you were telling me about? And he kind of looked at me, out of the corner of his eye, like, well, it's about time, dumbass. And so, and that just my smoking just exploded at that point. I went from probably 2 or 3 cigars a week on basically the same brand all the time to a cigar a day, and all over the map. I mean, I'll try just about anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
You come across stuff you don't like, but that's just a personal choice,
Right. That doesn't mean it's not good, right? It just means it's not something you don't like, right? And so one of the things that we do, which is really interesting, I don't know if other people do this, but when we come down to the factory, I spend about a week buying all different cigar brands, and I put a pack together for my guys here at the factory, so that they can see other things and experience other products that are out there.
See what else is going on in the industry. Yeah,
absolutely, 100%. So and I think that's really important too, right?
No, you need to know what you need to know what the competition, what the other people are doing, for sure. True.
Yeah,
Good or bad.
It's funny though, at the boutique level, we don't really, I mean, there's a few guys out there that treat us like we're competition, but for the most part at the boutique level, it's a great community of people that work together on things,
Just a bunch of guys making cigars, huh?
Just a bunch of guys executing their craft and their passion. And none of us are beholding to our P&L like a large corporation, right? And none of us are beholding to a board of directors or anything. I mean, I make that statement a lot of times. Oh my God, if I had a board of director, I'd be so screwed. I mean, I just would be so screwed, and so that's really the nice part of it too. And I think that's an aspect of the industry that we need to really expose the consumers to, that there's guys that are perceived as competitors of ours that I talk to on a daily basis, and there's always that camaraderie that exists, and it's really a very special, unique quality to this industry. I don't know of any other industry where that takes place, like I said, I had brand owners call me up and say, hey, I'm stuck for production. Now, the corporate mentality would be awesome. You're going to be out of cigars? Great. That means there's more space and room for me in the market, but that's not what we're all about. It's like, hey, come on down to the factory. I'll put 2 pairs on your project and we'll knock it out for you in 3 months. I mean, that's really special.
For sure. That's for sure. Hey, quick question for you. Now that I'm down to the gold diamond here, was there ever a concern with you guys when you started with this that the gold leaf might affect the flavor?
It's 24 karat edible gold, and it burns at 1948 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you actually get that gold to burn and impart flavor, you're going to light your mustache on fire by default, right? You're going to probably burn your lips off too. So no, there wasn't. There was a little bit of concern that the purists would push back against it, but they really haven't, because it's just a unique identifier of the brand.
Absolutely, man. That's the coolest thing I've seen in a long time in this industry.
It really is. And you would think that that would be a commodity that they would steal out of the factory here, but they don't. It's very well respected here. And in fact, it comes in a 3-inch by 3-inch, I believe it's, 3-inch by 3-inch square. And in the factory, we have a couple of gals that all day long, they put a grid over that gold sheet and they cut it by hand with the scissors.
Oh, wow.
Talk about respect for somebody that works with you in your factory. I respect those girls to the utmost, because it's not an easy task, right? Our packaging department, see, this was one of the reasons why Cavalier had to make the move to their own factory, because asking a third-party factory to spend the time and effort on it really wasn't fair. Like, our packaging department employs enough people for a cigar factory about 5 times the size of what we are right now in terms of production.
Oh, wow.
So our packaging department, and again, if I had a board of directors, or I'd have to explain that to them and justify it. And what's beautiful about, our business is we don't have to do that. It's what we need to deliver that quality product to the market. And so we just do it. Is it expensive? Yeah, absolutely. Is there a way to do it less expensive? I'm sure there is, but we don't want to even explore that, because why would we?
Yeah.
No, for sure. You got it. It's working, man. Don't change it if it's working.
No, right. And I posted a picture the other day of the Salomones with the gold diamonds on it. They were on a rack, because it adds a step to the process of packaging a cigar, in that they apply the gold to the cigar, and then it has to sit and cure for depending on the weather and the conditions down here, it could take up to a day and a half before it could be packaged. So it adds another step to the packaging process, which again, is not fair to ask somebody else to do and care about it the way you do. So it's amazing. The picture that I posted was just like one of the sexiest cigar pictures out there. I mean, it wasn't a girl in a bikini. It wasn't a girl, it was just a cigar picture. And for me, it was just pure sexiness.
Oh, that's cool.
And we take a lot of pride in what we do there. And actually, the picture that I took stirred up a conversation on one of the social media platforms, because the way the lighting hit it in the back, it looked like rose gold in the back. And so Sebastian and I might run with that at some point and come out
that'd be
with
awesome.
That's cool.
with a limited special event. We're actually partnering with a craft bourbon whiskey manufacturer out of Fallon, Nevada. It's called Frey Ranch. I don't know if you've all have seen their product out on the market.
I've heard of it though. I was actually in Reno a couple of days earlier this week for work, and one of the people that was at the event that I was at lives in Reno, and he had mentioned it if I'd heard of it, and I hadn't, so he was giving me kind of a rundown on it. Sounds like an amazing product. Yeah, they're a seed to glass 165-year-old farming family. They grow all the ingredients for their
bourbons and whiskeys, and they asked us to partner with them to make a cigar for them. And one of the things they asked us is, Nevada is known as the silver state. Would you guys be able to put a silver diamond on it? So we're doing the research right now to see how that's going to work, but you never know, you might see a cigar with a silver diamond on it.
Oh man, I look forward to it.
Yeah, as do I.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's really cool that, two small companies like that would get together. They didn't reach out to the 800-pound gorillas in the industry. They came to us and said, we'd like you to partner with us. And so we're actually working on the blend right now. It's a little tough for me because I don't drink. I've been able to smell it, and Sebastian's tried it and has an idea of what direction we're going to go. So that'll be coming out in the next year or so, I hope.
Man, that's
Awesome.
definitely something to look forward to. Hey, I want to thank you for taking the time out to talk with us and talk with our listeners. I mean, this was fantastic. So I truly, truly appreciate it.
I'm grateful and thankful, and thank you to Tommy for setting this up for us. And it was a pleasure. And you guys have an open invitation to come down here. I'd love to share our home with you and let you see what we do and experience it. And you get to smoke cigars all day while you're here and eat
Hey, I
great
love
food.
it.
Terrible.
No, that
So-
would be amazing, man. And
So
we look
you're-
forward to seeing you guys at PCA in a couple
Yes.
of months.
And
too.
at Rocky Mountain.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you come by. We'll have a smoke. And, one of my complaints about PCA is you really don't get the time to spend with people. So I'm really happy that we got to spend this time this morning, because this is one of the great things that came out of the last 2 years are these types of meetings where you get to spend a couple of hours with people and get
No,
to,
for sure.
Yes.
get to know each other. So thank you very much for having us. I'm very honored and humbled, and I apologize Sebastian wasn't able to make it. We did have a power outage at the factory late last night, and he's down there sorting that out for us, because Monday morning we have 100 people that need to come to work and want to come to work. So I'll tell you a real quick story. You got time for one more story
Absolutely.
about
Absolutely.
the factory? I'm sorry. I know we were wrapping up, but I'll tell you a story. We used to open the factory at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
And the guy who opens up the factory in the morning would show up, and there would be people waiting outside. And he'd ask them how long they'd been out there. And they said they'd been out there since 6:30. So we started opening the factory at 6:30. Well, he would show up, and there were people outside waiting to come to work. And they were out there from 6 o'clock. So we started opening at 6 o'clock, and they were outside waiting at 5:30 in the morning. And finally, we had to say, that's it. We're not opening any earlier than 5:30 in the morning. That's it. Well, this is as early as it gets. But just imagine the contrast that is to what normal corporate America faces. If you have people scheduled to come in at 8:30, you hope they show up by 8:45. And here we have people sitting outside the factory a half hour before they're supposed to be there. And so I apologize for Sebastian, but it's really important to us to get that sorted out, because we'll have 100 people sitting outside our door on Monday morning, a half hour before they're scheduled to come in.
That's amazing.
And
Man,
That's awesome.
no
man.
worries at all, man. Give Sebastian our regards.
And we'll book another with him, no problem. You guys
yeah,
have it.
no,
As with
definitely.
our invitation, you and Sebastian have an open invitation to call us and go, hey, we want to be on the next show, and you've got that anytime you want.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you for your time this morning, guys. It was a pleasure.
And for us too, man.
I really enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your weekend, and thank you so much for the support. We greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hey, Greg, any closing thoughts?
Nah, I'm good, man.
How about you, Larry?
Awesome cigars, sir.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Thank you. Have a great weekend, guys.
Cheers.
Sure.
Well, looks like the smoke's down to the nub, and of course, my scotch glass is empty, so I think it's about that time. I want to thank Brian from Cavalier Genève, and on behalf of Greg and Larry and Dr. Zayas, you'll always be Dr. Zayas to me, Camera Gorilla. Hey, thank you for listening. Check us out at LunaCigarCartel.com. Like and share us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram, and don't be a stranger. Drop us a line and let us know you're out there. I'm Scott Robinson, and from all of us here at Beyond the Humidor, we look forward to chatting with you on the next episode. But until then, stay safe and healthy, take care, and good smoke, good drink, and good life.